Today, I'm tackling the most duped piece of furniture on the market. I'm gonna be doing my version of the Anthropologie Enchantment Dresser, and this video starts right now. You might be having deja vu and thinking, Christina, I've already seen you do an enchantment dresser. You have, but today I'm gonna do it a little differently because I'm gonna be using WoodUBend, which is a super cool product that you can heat up and bend and work in a bunch of different ways. And last time I did it, a tan version, and today I'm gonna do a whitewash. So we'll get to the WoodUBend a little bit later in the video. It's gonna be really fun, but right now let's just start working on the dresser. All right, this little lady was pretty beat up. I got it for $45, which is really great for my market, but the top was totally destroyed and it was very stinky. So I spent a lot of time washing it yesterday with my white lightning. And I also did a vinegar wash on the inside of the drawers to kind of take some of that odor away. It's looking pretty good, it's smelling pretty good. I'm just gonna finish sanding the rest of this down and then we can start with our white wash.
Here is an up-close look at the Anthropologie Enchantment Dresser I'll be duping today. It retails for $1,600. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot more affordable. So I'm just getting this brown red stained stain off of here to give me a clean slate to work with. I'm using an 80 grit sandpaper, and I previously filled the holes with wood filler yesterday, and now I'm just sanding everything down.
All right, the sanding is done. This is not a perfect sanding job because this is going to be a rustic piece, and the whitewash that I'm gonna do is really gonna hide the imperfections in my sanding job, and I'll be able to do a little dry brushing and stuff. So don't overthink sanding when you're doing a rustic piece like this. Where I filled my holes, this is really white, and so when I do a wash, you're gonna be able to see that. So I'm gonna try to camouflage it a little bit with some mud puddle on these spots where I filled the holes. I drilled my new hardware holes. I had to recenter the holes because the old hardware, the size of it had to be lifted up. So that's why the holes look like they're off. They're not, they're completely center in the drawer. And I just picked this wooden knob. It's very simple and basic. I'm gonna wash it the same color as the dresser because we really want the flowers to shine and pop. So these are just gonna disguise and blend in with the piece. I'm ready to start my whitewash. You have a couple of options here. Dixie Belle has a couple of whites. I really love drop cloth if you want a creamier white, but today I'm gonna go with cotton, which is their brightest white. So when I make a wash, I typically do 50% water, 50% paint, but I want this to be a little bit thicker. So today I'm gonna do 2 parts paint and 1 part water. Just in case you haven't seen me do a wash before, these are all the supplies that I need. I have my paint wash right here. I have my mister bottle. I have gloves to help keep my hands clean. I have a brush to put on the paint, and then I have lots of dry, clean, lint-free rags to wipe back any excess. So I'm gonna start by misting the entire surface, getting my paint on, and then I'll wipe back the excess.
When I'm doing a wash, I like to work in sections, and when I do the top, I paint that whole section entirely before I wipe back any of that paint. This will give you a more consistent look, so when you're doing a top, you want to paint pretty quickly so it doesn't dry up on you. Once I've got it completely coated, I grab some lint-free rags and wipe back any of the excess. This does take quite a few rags because once your rag gets loaded up, you don't want to be dragging that paint over the surface too much, so keep grabbing a clean rag as they get filled up. As I'm moving on to paint my next section, I want to talk a little bit about why I'm using a paint wash versus using a stain here. And that is because I'm going for a whitewashed look like my inspiration piece, and I want it to be a little inconsistent. I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to look hand painted. Also, this is an all wood piece and it's really nice, but you can see all the variations in that wood. To make this piece look cohesive back in the day, they probably used a toner and a stain to make it look like a more expensive wood. So doing the wash, it's going to look more rustic. It's going to cover up some of those imperfections. And honestly, it's a lot less messy and you don't have to deal with all those vapors. You can also see the outline of the old hardware here, even though I have sanded this back. That's really hard to get rid of. I probably would have had to bleach these drawers, but just using a whitewash, we're able to cover that up and camouflage it completely.
The wash is dry and complete. I ended up doing 2 coats on here because I really wanted it to look really close to that Anthropologie Enchantment Dresser. So I have a lot of streaking and a lot of, interest and stuff just like that piece. And now I'm ready to do the really fun part. We're gonna add these decorative WoodUBend molds. I got a bunch of different flowers, and this product is really cool if you've never seen it before. It acts a lot and looks a lot like wood, but the magic behind it is when you heat it up with a heat gun or a hair dryer, it bends and gets pliable. You can cut it and bend it a bunch of different ways. So it's gonna be a lot different from the last time you saw me do this. Last time I did this, instead of using WoodUBend, I used molds and an epoxy resin that I had to mix. Now that takes 10 minutes to set, so it took a lot longer to do that. This is all set and ready to go, so I think I'm gonna go a little bit faster, but just so you know, this is a little bit more expensive. I spent about $100 on my WoodUBend, which I know is a lot, but when you break down how much the molds and the epoxy cost, I spent around $60 on that. So this is $40 more, but I'm gonna save a lot of time by not having to keep making those molds. And the epoxy, after it sets, it's very hard. You can't bend it, it's not pliable. And these I can reapply and bend and mold the whole time. So it's gonna be a little different, but I think it's gonna be fun. Okay, these are really fun to work with. The first thing you wanna do is heat up your mold a little bit. I just use low heat on my heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, you can use a hair dryer. You just wanna get it to where it's a little bit bendable and pliable. Then you're gonna put glue on the back. I really like to use the Type Bond Quick and Thick because it dries faster and it holds really well. You can use any type of wood glue, but that is my favorite definitely to use. Then once you get it in place where you have it and where you want it, you want to take that heat gun again and heat it up just a little bit more. And then you're going to press down really firmly so that every surface of the mold is touching your furniture. And if you have any excess glue, you just want to wipe that back. Okay guys, this is the part where we have to let our inner perfectionist go, which is very challenging for me. But when you're doing something like this, you don't want to overthink where you're putting the flowers. You kind of just lay them, and worst comes to worst, we can take it off if it looks completely stupid. I'm just kind of laying it out and seeing how it goes. When I'm putting them flat on the drawer here, you don't have to heat it up as much. If you're gonna bend it and curve it around something, you do want to heat it up a little bit more to make sure that it's really pliable. But when you're doing it in flat, it's a little bit easier here to do this. And then again, once I get it on, I'm gonna heat it up just a little bit more and make sure it's really nice and flat up against my drawer. When you're putting the glue on, you really want to coat the back because you want these to stick really well, and you want it all the way around the edge so no blank spaces fill in all that glue all over the back. The fun of working with WoodUBend is that you can bend it. So I'm trying to make some really fun, interesting pieces that are bending around here. And this glue holds really well, but when you have a bent piece like this, you wanna make sure that you tape it for a little bit and let that glue get nice and tacky so that it has time to really form and be flush against the furniture. It's the home stretch. I only have a couple more left. This has been really easy to work with. I would recommend having a lot of Q-tips on hand because as you're pressing and squeezing down, a lot of glue comes out, and this makes it really easy to just kind of get that glue off. So have some Q-tips on hand. That was so much fun. It is really relaxing to just sit there and kind of play around and bend these and mold these. I do like using these a lot better than the epoxy for two reasons. I wasn't having to sit and mix epoxy, and I love that I can reheat them and bend them any way I want. With the epoxy, once it is set, and you can't bend it or mold it. So that was really fun. And I didn't end up cutting any of them because of the way that my drawers are. I couldn't really cut them between two drawers because I have this frame right here. But if you had two drawers that were butt up right next to each other, these would be super easy just to cut in half and have on one drawer and the other. So those are things to keep in mind. But now that I've got all of this on here, I'm ready to do some dry brushing on here. What I'm trying to do is make these look exactly like my whitewashed wood. So it might take a little bit of playing around, but I'm gonna use the French tip brush. This is a natural bristle brush and it's pointed, so it's gonna get into these nooks and crannies really easily. I'm gonna go really light and build it up. So I don't want to totally slap the paint on here because I want to have some of that brown underneath to make it look like wood. So I have the French tip brush and I have a couple little artist brushes, and I'm barely getting any paint on here, and then I'm wiping a lot of that off on a paper towel. So you don't want to have a lot of excess paint. And I'm just kind of buffing it in and shading it. It's a little bit of a slow process, but you don't want to get too much paint on there. It's just going to look really unnatural. So just go really slowly and shade. I'm obsessed with how this is looking, and I don't want to change the color of it at all. Like, I really wish I didn't have to seal it, but we want to protect it. So I decided to go with a natural sealer. I'm going to use Big Mama's Butter in my favorite scent, Orange Grove. and I'm gonna use the Best Dang wax brush to apply it. And this is gonna be really great around all that detailing, because if I used a top coat, a liquid top coat, it could drip and gunk up all those flowers, and I wanna keep them looking nice and beautiful and natural, so we're gonna use this natural wax. I have the whole dresser coated in Big Mama's Butter. It smells amazing. And then I'm just gonna take a lint-free cloth and wipe back any of that excess. This cures in 7 days, and it will be kind of tacky until it dries overnight. So just know that that sheen is gonna kind of go away a little bit as it dries. Just to remind you, here is what we started off with, and here it is now. Okay, I didn't think it was possible to love this dresser more than my last version that I did, but I'm obsessed with this. The white wash looks just so cool with the WoodUBend. It looks like I hand carved this in here. So I really loved this technique. It was so fun doing again. You guys, if you have not tried to do a dresser like this, I really encourage you, because I had so much fun this time just playing and doing the shading and where am I gonna put the molding. It was actually really relaxing and really fun. So I encourage you to make your own. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back with another furniture makeover soon, and I will see you guys next time.